everybody. This is James Diboe on Discovering Season 4, dedicated to original people. And we got a special guest, our new guest on today, Andre Dallas. How you doing, brother?
Yeah, man. Give thanks. Nice to be here.
Great to have you on anyway. And if you want to tell us your MC name, by the way.
Yeah. So as an artist, I go under Andre Janoy, which is my birth middle name, and it's Amharic, meaning majesty.
Majesty.
So like in Rasta culture, you'd say Ababa Janoy means Father Majesty. It's one of the names for Selassie. So Andre Janoy is the artist name.
Well, there's a couple of things that you're involved in. You know, you're involved in activism.
Yeah.
You know, also you're helping students.
Yeah. So at the moment, I'm working for a charity called People and Planet, which is it's a network of student activist organisations, student activist groups. We've got groups in about 70, 80 different unis across the UK. And essentially what it's about is essentially introducing uni students to ways to fight for a better world, essentially, and giving them sort of campaigns that they can step into and feel like are easily winnable, but that actually make a difference. And then we try and skill them up along the way, so teach them how to sort of build a group, how to build solidarity with the community, and how to sort of move an agenda forwards, how to figure out who has the power in a situation, how to influence them. And so I specifically work around migrant justice, and the main campaigns that we run at the moment are sort of mainly about trying to get universities to take all their money out of the border industry, which is something that isn't too well understood as an industry, because we all hear about sort of the nonsense that Priti Patel and all these people get onto. But what's part of like the neoliberal movement at the moment is that all of this is actually being outsourced. So most of what the horrible things you see happening in the Channel, etc., are actually committed by private companies who make huge amounts of money for it. The contracts go to BAE Systems, they go to Airbus, TUI Fly, to Serco, and then universities invest in these and make money off the back of it and stuff. And so it's essentially about the theory of change is that essentially we create so much stigma around being involved in bordering that no matter what nonsense Priti Patel cooks up, there's no companies that are willing to engage in it, and they have to sort of scale back that kind of stuff. And it's all about sort of building a world free from borders is the sort of long-term goal. I'm very no borders in my philosophy, and when you actually get into it, there's very few reasons to be separating people along these lines, and all it really comes down to is sort of the capitalist drive to keep what's mine for myself and keep it away from other people, and that's what we're trying to bun down essentially in as many ways as we can. And
well, there's other things you're involved with also. You know, we're just scratching on the surface a bit, but you're a reggae musician. Well, when we say reggae, you're a hip hop musician. Yeah.
I think I just.
Or do you do reggae as well, or is it just hip hop? Would you say?
Yeah, bits and pieces. It's hard to put it into a box. It's always hard to put it in a box. I think I'd call myself a conscious lyricist, and then I use whatever beats are the best vehicle for it. So sometimes that can be spoken word. That can be just like, you know, like Lost Poets sort of djembe drum backing sort of stuff, and just trying to make sure the words are the center. Sometimes when there's a bit more of that sort of melodic vibe and thing, I'll touch a reggae thing. I've spent the last I've been doing this since I was like 13, 14, and working on it for a while and sort of developing the craft. But the last sort of 3-4 years, I took a step back from the sort of public spotlight and been trying to sort of work on the craft in the background. So I've been taking things like singing lessons and stuff, trying to get them notes hitting right and stuff, and understand it on a musical level more. And then on the technical side, I've got very into sort of understanding the mix and exactly what we're trying to do with the sound waves and stuff. But at the heart of it, it's all about expressing conscious messages and trying to take that to the people.
Well, consciousness, that's one thing about hip hop music. A majority of it, you know, it's not conscious. I mean, the more further we go back, we might find more conscious people, you know, Public Enemy, or all sorts of people. But nowadays, is consciousness, you know, it don't sell. So that's sometimes, it's the business that always seems to interfere in all this. But if you do something because you love to do something, that's what it's about. And another thing, because we're going to come back to the music, another thing we need to touch on also is the Rasta concept. You're involved, you're the Rasta. You're Rasta.
So this is also an interesting one, because like Rasta's probably the best shorthand to describe my position on a number of things. But because Rasta's such a multifaceted culture, essentially the way I'd kind of break it down is that Rasta has a liberty, it has a political dimension, and it has a spiritual dimension. And the liberty, they're all connected and they all feed into each other. But the liberty and the sort of way of life, the sort of respect for other people, the respect for nature, the in tune with nature, and the sort of things like the ital food, the like growing your locks and being proud of your Africanness, that kind of stuff resonates with me so strongly, and that's always been sort of Rasta's been my sort of teacher through life, my intro into Pan-Africanism and how I've sort of accessed this concept of who I am and sort of that greater history of myself beyond what's sort of presented to yourself in Northwest England sort of thing, and Rasta's been my window into that. But there's parts of Rasta's spirituality that I'm still working out, and particularly sort of my relation to Selassie and Selassie's divinity and the ideas of sort of how we conceive of a creator and our relation to that creator. And again, even within Rasta, that's not a singular idea. There's one of the great things about Rasta is there's no book that tells you this is the way. It's very much about coming to your own truth, and that allows so much pluralism in Rasta that people can have these different positions, but it also means that to some extent each child is supposed to sort of come to that truth themselves and sort of thing, and so it's part of the journey is to figure that out. And so I can't say that I'm at a point where would you say you're on a natural journey? Yeah, 100%.
No one, like you say, there's not a book thrown at you.
Yeah.
There's not like no one's forcing you to do it or imposing. It's something that you gradually get into it.
Yeah.
And you're learning more, because spirituality, we can go into, we talk about spirituality all the time, from especially meeting tribes around the world. And one thing I look at is like, I see similarity. We can also point out, well, this is different, this tribe, this is different. But sometimes it's good to look past the divide and see what do they have in common, and you'll see they're all connected to nature. And most people see nature through God. And, sometimes you could go to India, and the Hindus might talk about 1,000 gods, 1,000,000 gods, but it's all one deity that they're all connected to. And same with Shango, in the Yoruba, Shango, Ogun, Oshan, all these names, these are all aspects of the true. And then again, we can go deeply into where the positive and negative forces, and understanding what these feelings are, and it's all energy. Like a car battery don't work if you don't have a negative and a positive, isn't it? So it's understanding the things of nature. So when you're looking at thunder coming down, you're in some tropical country, and it's lashing down, you're worrying for yourself. So, you're going to call this a god because it's a force to be reckoned with. That's all it is. It's not like this is the true God that's going to determine your life or something. But people from European, like particularly Greeks and English, Germans, or whoever, they seen it as we just believed in multiple deities, and there was no hierarchy above that, So with the Rasta concept, I like the Rasta anyway. And it's good that it doesn't have a book. But I was speaking to someone who's a Rasta, and he was telling me about 3 different sects of Rasta. The ones that the ones you mentioned Haile Selassie before.
Yeah.
There's ones that see him as a prophet. There's ones that believe, I think they are the Hebrew Israelites.
Yeah, so they call them mansions.
Yeah,
the three different mansions. And
yeah,
this is what I'm talking about. That sort of pluralism in it. But you got 12 tribes. You got Bobo Shanti, and they have different orientations towards what things they emphasize. So often it's kind of similar interpretations, but different emphasis sort of thing. So, for example, the 12 tribes tends to be more religious focused and sees the Old Testament as much more of a sort of central book, whereas Bobo Shanti tend to be a bit more Pan-African political center. Is one sort of simplification of the way to see it. But I suppose even within those mansions, they're sort of, and even to be honest, there's part of me that feels like a lot of the attempt to fit Rasta into mansions and things is an attempt to sort of take the European aspect of what defines a proper religion and what sort of essentially take the structure of the Abrahamic religions and apply this to a Pan-African philosophy that doesn't fit in those. It doesn't fit in that realm, and that's what they're trying to do to give it this sort of credence of respectability that comes with. We all know that Christianity is a religion and Islam's a religion and worth following, but Rasta is always sort of put in this sort of weird box where people don't really understand what it is. And some people, it's similar to sort of the way that I remember reading a book called 1,000 Great Black Men when I was like 13, 14 or something. It was one of these ones printed in like the 50s, 60s, can't remember. But the one thing that struck me reading through that, apart from the fact that they were all men, which is like an issue in itself, was the fact that the lens of what was seen as great was very much how Europeans have regarded greatness throughout history. And so it wasn't people that built communities, it wasn't people that built schools and brought people together. It was Askia the Great led an army that killed 1,000 people across here. Mansa Musa had so much money that he destabilized the thingamajig. And we take from our oppressors the idea of what our goals are, and we try to fit ourselves into those realms. So we say we're great because we were like Churchill or whatever and stuff. We don't say, hold on, let's redefine what greatness means to us. And this is similarly like, let's redefine what spirituality means to us. We don't have to fit it into this box of there is a leader, there is a book, etc. Yeah.
Well, go back to what you're saying. But this exactly what you're saying now. It's like white approval. It's like, and this is where we come across this all the time. It's like, for example, you could find a way to do stuff. You find your way. Sometimes we get put in these boxes of being structured their way. And we might not even realize ourselves. This is how you're supposed to write a poem. This is how you're supposed to do music, or this is how, you do things your own way. That's your creative way. We're creative people. And it's like Runoko Rashidi. If you don't know, he was one of the, he's the grandmaster teacher of the Global African Presence. And he mentioned about Australian Aborigines, and he called something, looking at Aboriginal Australians through African eyes. So what he's basically doing is do we see the Aborigine the same as how the European sees them? Which we don't, because we are spiritual people anyway. So when we see the Aborigine, they're spiritual, and according to Runoko Rashidi, he says that the Aborigines are the most spiritual people on the planet. Now, I'm not going to say I just agree with. I've met Aboriginal Australians, and they are very spiritual. But I always believe that Africans were the most spiritual. But spirituality, you can't say who's the most spiritual, because the more you are in isolated places away from people, it's more easier to practice your spirituality. Whereas you've got constant tribes or constant migrations coming into your land, So, but back to what you were saying anyway about spirituality. You were saying about the European concept of what Rasta spirituality is, or anyone's spirituality. Because I'm getting into this. It's very interesting. I like the anchor as well.
Man.
Man, woman, and child. It's representing life.
Yeah, exactly. And that's similar to what you're saying. It's like, I get what you're saying in terms of like creating from scratch almost. But it's also about building on the shoulders of the people that came before us,
the ancestors.
But also, I think that's the key. It's not to sort of start from scratch, but it's also to make sure you're standing on the right shoulders.
That's right.
And we can't be standing on the shoulders of European civilization, reaching for things that we think are for us.
Come up the ladder.
Exactly.
We're falling.
Exactly. So we need to step back and start looking in the right area. And sometimes, as you say, you can be sort of bounded by the concepts that you sort of that you're born into, and not be able to sort of see outside that. And it's about breaking out of that and being introduced to these new ideas. And that's why things like this podcast and sort of educational programs and stuff that can bring these kind of concepts, they just need to spark sometimes. And then it's not, as I say, it's not about putting the answers in front of people. It's about giving them the spark to go out and find them themselves. And that's the real key to it.
Well, that is the best thing what you've just said, because what you said, it's not just about someone just listen to everything you say. It's about also them going and researching, because they could also find stuff themselves. They could find stuff that I haven't come across, what you've not come across. And this is how I learned myself. I learned by teaching myself. I might have started off with just watching a video on YouTube, or it could have started off with just a small book, what someone passed me, and then it just grows from there.
And that's just much more powerful knowledge. And that's kind of, again, to say about, that's what the ethic behind Rasta is. Because like, I know so many people that grew up religious that were sort of told, this is the way, and you believe it without actually believing it. You don't come to that belief yourself. And so when you reach 16, 17 and start thinking for yourself, you start thinking, do I actually believe that? And you end up stepping back from the religion. And oftentimes people will come back to it themselves, but it's once they read it themselves, whereas sort of Rasta skips that stage and just says, here are some books. This is the things. You read them, and once you've read them, you'll probably think similarly to me, sort of thing. And like, I'm not going to tell you how to think about them, but like, if you come to those conclusions yourself, if you're reading Chancellor Williams and Walter Rodney and all these kind of things, you'll come away from that with conceptions of the world that you formed yourself and that you'll believe yourself, rather than if your dad or your mum or whatever comes and says X, Y, Z, these are evil, you should believe this. You'll be like, okay, mum. But then you don't actually believe it. You act on it, but you don't believe it. And that's the key, I think.
Yeah. Also, you like to travel as well. That's definitely something I relate to you. You know, I've seen a picture of you in Colombia.
Yeah, no, that was a blessing, man. That was a blessing.
Looks like an amazing place there.
Yeah, no, that was amazing. Like, again, it's such a varied country, because we spent time up in Bogota, which is like up in the hills and like a lot whiter, a lot like sort of European presence. But then when you move down, we spent some time in Cartagena, down on the Caribbean coast, and man, that was a vibe. You know, like, and I think the photo you saw was me with one of the most talented MCs I've ever met in my life, called Wilmer Collection. Shout out Wilmer. He's out in, I think he's moved to Mexico City now, but
Colombian guy.
He's a Colombian guy. Yeah, he's from Cartagena. I was just roaming through the streets, and then I just heard like break beats coming from somewhere. Turn around, and there's this Bredo with a boombox on his shoulder. Just starts freestyling at me. 20 minutes later, we're just deep in the cipher. I just jumped in, and we just ciphered back and forth for 20 minutes, and then took his number. And the next day, he booked me a taxi. I rolled through to his like little hood, and we just started recording in his little session. We recorded like 2-3 tracks that are just absolute fire. So if anyone wants to go check them out, they're available.
I will. I'll be checking them out. So you went to like it's like a little hood where they are. Cartagena.
Yeah, Cartagena. It's an amazing place, because it's just such a fusion of cultures, and it's like, it's got this kind of European Spanish colonial vibe to the architecture, but again, just the difference in what the population looks like. Because again, like, people don't understand this about South America. Brazil, there's more Africans in Brazil than there are any single country in the world, apart from Nigeria. There's more, I think Colombia has the third most. Like, Colombia is a black country that is run by Europeans, then we need to understand that. And the vibes there, it felt like being in the Caribbean as well. People don't see it as that.
Well, it's funny with Colombia, like, because people, what we see, and this is another thing as well, what we see on the news, what we see on TV, musician, anything, they always seem to show the lightest ones, the Colombians, the Venezuelans. Like, I was in Venezuela, there's many dark-skinned people there, and obviously there's lights. There's all different complexions, but they only like to show the lighter people. Say this is what a Venezuelan looks like. Well, that's impossible to say this is what a Venezuelan or a Colombian looks like, because the original people were the indigenous people.
Yeah.
Then obviously Spanish have came, they brought Africans over, and also there's an African presence going way back in millennium, going back the Olmecs.
They came before Columbus.
The ones that came to Mexico, and then there's also Carthaginian money that was found around Ecuador and Peru, and he found that through when there was earthquake disruptions. It must have been buried under the ground, and then they got it out. So there's loads of evidence that Africans migrated to America, and not just America, Cambodia, Southeast Asia, Polynesia, Melanesia. You know, so that's not a surprise, because Ranoko Rashidi, he's really solid on him. He's got a book. It's actually Ivan Van Sertima's book, but he was allowed to feature in it. It was called The Africans of Asia. I've got the book in mind. But it's Ivan Van Sertima allowed Ranoko Rashidi to have his first feature in the book. So it's not his book, but he allowed him to do a feature. And funny enough, Ivan was mentoring Ranoko, and he said the best part in the book was Ranoko's part about, because even Van Sertima, he was on the Global African President, but he said himself he'd never been to Asia. So Ranoko was covering these people in India. And India is a very interesting place when we're talking about black people. Now, according to Ranoko, like I say, I don't have to agree on everything, but I'll question stuff. He said there might be more black people in India than Nigeria.
I would say so.
So it's one of those things where, okay, if you're referring to black people with straight hair, then yes, I could believe that. But he did say, how do we define black people? Do you have to have afro, or can you have loose hair? Doesn't Africa produce this? And this is like, you know, we're very interesting, like, how he puts it, how we describe this as black. Like, say, for example, people might look at Somalia and think, oh, they're not black because they got loose hair. But they are black.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, you know.
there's more genetic diversity between two neighbouring African tribes than there is between an African and a European, because that's how genetic diversity works. And again, like how these migrations worked as well were very much like bottlenecks, that you'd have particular groups. It could be literally like 4 or 5 families that would reach one of these islands in the South Pacific or whatever, and then they build a civilization. So, I mean, if you get a group of 10 black friends together, they don't all look identical. One of them will have straighter hair and the others one will have and if one of them went off and started their own society, you would end up with, that's just how genetics works. And yeah, some people get a bit silly with those things. And yeah, go on.
Because when we look at anthropologists anyway, majority of them we see are Europeans. So a lot of our information comes from them, but when we have like Renoka Rashidi and certain people, he explains the waves a lot different that left Africa. If you just watch a European perspective now, there's no common sense in it. There's no way Africans populated Africa, left about 90 to 80,000 years ago, and you want me to believe that they, one single wave, populated this planet? You don't believe there's multiple waves?
Never came back. Never.
So what it's trying to do is trying to control the African mind that we stayed still. If people left 90,000 years, it's showing you the brain capacity that you can leave. So what he's trying to say is there was no migration after that, because the first migration became the Europeans, the Asians, the Australians, and that's it. But there would have been multiple waves. If someone left 90,000 years, why can't they go 85,000 years, 5,000 years later? What would stop them? Why didn't they go 60,000 years later? And this is something where I spoke to Renoko, because actually he's undiscovering. I got him on before he passed away.
To check back in that one,
that was a very good one on the global African presence in Asia, the Pacific, and Australia. And it was just a privilege. Unfortunately, rest in peace. But I'm happy the amount of information he's put out there. And no one's done the global African presence like Renoka Rashidi. We got J.A. Rogers. He done about 60 countries. But Renoko was talking about J.A. Rogers, and he said that, well, once Renoko got to the 60th country, he said, I'm going to pass J.A. Rogers. And he just went to the 125, and he become the king then of that. Yeah. And that's the way it is, and no one's done it like him. The amount of churches he's been around the world to find a black Madonna and child, Russia, Poland, we could go on forever.
That was a deep one to get into, yeah.
And also when he's gone into these places like Angkor Wat, which I visited myself, and I visited the Bayon temples, you can see the clearly Africoid features, the faces. Also, you look at the Olmecs, clearly Africa. There's too many depictions. Even every single place on this planet, either you will find indigenous black peoples, or there was traces of us. Our bones are still there. Shed Man in England, take that for example.
Yeah,
so we need more African black people involved in this academia.
I think that's crucial, and across like all stages as well, because it's also about like. Yeah, not just the sort of, I think anthropology and this kind of stuff so important to understand, but then it's how you sort of build on it and these kind of things, and that's kind of the stuff you were talking about before. How do we identify the similarities, the sort of, because it's always like the Patricia Hill Collins sort of vibe with the black feminist epistemology that we were talking about earlier, the idea that like there's no single truth, but you can find collective truths by aggregating similarities. Yeah. And so if we can look through these various different ancient civilizations, and if we can see, they were doing the same thing as them, you're gonna be like, there might be some knowledge there that we want to take forward, and how do we incorporate that into our modern lives? 'Cause a lot of people sort of do the history thing and then just sort of stop, and they're like, it's good that they were doing this back there, sort of thing. But then it's like, how do we make that actionable information that we can use to build a better community and take ourselves forward? Because again, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like, these people were living for thousands and thousands of years and were intelligent, very, very smart people. And again, that's something to get into. Like, the idea that progress is a line that is ever increasing is a very modern European idea. And even if you go into like ancient European ideas, the Romans and Greeks sort of conceived of time as a period of cycles that would go up and down, and things would get better and get worse and get better and get worse. And then that moved into this idea that there was this big wave where So post the collapse of like the classics, it was always the idea that the best of times had already been, and all you could do, things were going to get worse, and all you could do was look back to Greek and Roman times and do the best you could to try and make things better. And then scientific revolution comes around, European hubris and the idea that we're better than the world comes around, and this idea that humankind should always be increasing and improving what it has constantly and will always do that is now set in our minds, and we just expect things to get better and to be better, and that our lives will be better than our parents will be better than our parents, and that in itself is a European invention. And what we're trying to improve in that is also a European thing. So that gets into my sort of Rasta concepts. But yeah, the European concept of growth and progress is very much just about having more things infinitely for the individual. And if we look back through history, there are so many, and current times. So this is with what makes this powerful about it's not just a Rasta idea. It's an idea that you find in indigenous American philosophies. You find it in South American philosophies. You find it in indigenous African philosophies, and even in like indigenous Celtic philosophies and things. It's not like a African thing. It's like, this is like human knowledge. And so many cultures have viewed progress as, and so I'll say it in the Rasta sense. Rasta would view progress as einity and moving towards greater einity. And so the concept of I and I in Rasta, we have the one I, which is the physical body, our physical manifestation of our soul. And the other I is the life force energy that runs through everything and everyone, every being, everything. And so when we say I and I, that's that constant affirmation of, it's not, my physical body is not detached from this energy, and this energy isn't detached from the physical body. Yeah. We are one. Me and you are one. Everything is one. Me and that tree are one. Because I and I, the I is connected with the other I, which runs through everything. Yeah. And so the philosophy of Rasta, in terms of what the aim of life is, to achieve einity and to become in greater, we'd say unity, but we don't use the word you, we use I. So becoming greater einity with the second I, essentially, that life force. And so there will be some things that require material possessions to do that. Like, I'm not like anti-technology. I'm like being able to have iPhones and FaceTime allows me to call my cousin in Jamaica and have a connection with him that I wouldn't be able to have if we didn't have that technology. So it's not burn out all technology, fire up on all this, fire up on all that. It's about, we don't want to make iPhones that crash every 2 years just because somebody will have to buy another one. It's not about having as many possessions for the individual. It's about us being as close to one another as possible. And so trying to orientate our actions as states, as individuals, so that everything is about that, and also not seeing individuals as just humans, but also considering animals, plants, and how we as life coexist and need to find balance and equilibrium, not this kind of idea of infinite growth, because we know we have finite resources. This is a finite planet. We can't infinitely grow. And like, there's all these ideas Elon Musk will throw, we'll just go mine the moon or whatever, or these kind of things. No, we need to find a balance on this planet. And so many different civilizations throughout history have had that same ethic, and the most successful ones have had that same ethic. And it's only these past sort of 600-700 years of European capitalist colonialist expansion that has gone around systematically steamrolling these ideas around the world and replacing them with this essentially like ideological monoculture of the idea that there is one thing that humans are aiming for, and it's stuff, as much stuff as possible for people. And that's not that. Yeah, that's a very particular idea that's been generalized.
People in the ancient world, and still to this day, I'm still encountering them now when I go in secluded areas. They all seem to believe that everything had a soul. Every living thing has a soul, whether it was a plant. They seen life in the mountain. And then you can go deeper into that. I know they talk about, there's ones who talk about good spirits and bad spirits that can come from the water, come from the trees, come from mountains, come from human beings. So basically, it's just evil can get into anybody and good can get into anybody, but it's up to you to choose. Read the signs yourself. Know right from wrong, but I'm sure you're taught that anyway from young. And I just love this, anything to do with nature. you know, connecting the one force. We're all connected. But some people like to see things separate. It's like, for example, the concept of what's the concept? Spirit and matter. They like to separate it, but it's the same thing. Well, it's connected. What I'm saying is so we have to dig, and unfortunately, we have to be the researchers of the planet to get things back to the original. Because who else can bring it back to the original? The original people.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know how far we go back. Scientists can tell us that we came from a common ancestor with an ape, and we're only 200,000 years old as modern humans. But you know what? According to some people, we've always been here. Some people believe we weren't in this physical, we were in the spiritual. And there's a lot of cosmology involved in all this. Go deep into consciousness, and people understand so much.
Yeah.
But then you could say, for example, you could have some religions who say, well, you shouldn't be dealing with astronomy. You shouldn't be dealing with astrology. It's all bad. So then you've got to lose your old traditions and your knowledge to replace for something else. And then you got to look at, does these people, or does this have your great interest in heart? You know, so you got to question these things as well.
No, that's so key. Yeah, 100%. And yeah, again, most things have an agenda, and there's usually something behind it, as you say. And
it's like chopping a tree down. Rather than chop it, you'd see people talking to the tree.
Yeah,
you know, they might be giving a prayer, thanks.
Yeah,
you know,
and it means at least there's completely different ethics in the way you interact with it. There's Native American communities that see mining as like inherently immoral because that's digging out the guts of our Mother Earth, and that if you think of it like that rather than sort of we need the cobalt for X or Y, or like where you're weighing up these cost benefit analyses. If you just see that as like you shouldn't be doing that. That's something that is like, you wouldn't dig out somebody's heart from their body because somebody else needed it or whatever. So it's these different attitudes, and it's very much something that's been deliberately buried by an agenda of European capitalism, which it's completely antithetical to that, and they can't exist in the same sphere, and that's why they've tried to destroy these ideas.
And then like a lot of these indigenous peoples, some of them are starting to slowly being absorbed into the modern society. I noticed this in many of these Southeast Asian countries. Then also, I mean, I'm looking at the Pacific Islands as well, and Christianity is big out there. I mean, I spoke to a friend of mine the other day, and he's a person who I keep in touch with all the time. And he always post a white Jesus all the time. So I said to him, how can you post that? And how could that be your prophet if at one time before the European came to your land, you didn't know, you'd never seen a European, you'd never seen a white person. So how could this be your savior? I mean, when they entered your country, they colonized you. They took you into blackbird and slavery, where they tricked you to get on the boats and pretended you were going somewhere, and then locked you in and took you into slavery. And some of these Pacific Islands were sent to South America. They don't touch this. See, there's certain things that are popular and not too popular. You know, the transatlantic trade, popular. So everybody knows that you could probably speak to anybody around this planet, and they have heard that black people went through slavery. But if you talked about other things, you know, there was times when Africans were getting taken into Asia as slaves as well. Also, we left as free people, of course. You know, these ones end up India. You got to see these. Community there, been there for about since the 8th century, around 7th century times. So our people are just scattered all over this planet, and we give off a certain vibration, and I believe that our vibration is keeping the earth alive, especially the brothers who are in harmony with nature. Because one of the Southeast Asian tribes, when I was in the Philippines, and he said to me, we're keeping the planet alive. People like them, you know, we were in tune with nature. And I thought, well, imagine when all these illegal loggers start taking up all the trees, and then they're going to be building motorways, roads, just destroying the communities. I mean, is the earth not going to be alive then? You know, and this is like serious, because if you have to see we're all one, we're all connected. If you can't see that, then there's always going to be divide.
Yeah.
Always.
You're hurting yourself by doing these things. And again, like, it's not even in the sort of classic European sort of time analysis sense of like, oh, if you cut the tree down today, you won't have it tomorrow, that sort of thing. It's, you're literally like, you're harming yourself and your future prospects as well. It's, we need to move beyond those ideas. And again, like, as you say, there are these stewards of the environment around the world, and like there are these native cultures that again don't like native cultures aren't perfect. They don't have it like impeccable records with the environment, and like Jared Diamond has a good book I think called Collapse that sort of, he's an anthropologist and sort of looks at various different cultures throughout history and what was the sort of factor that led to their collapse. So things like the Easter Islanders and things like that.
Interesting.
And there have been examples of cultures that have overused certain resources throughout history and don't have this perfect equilibrium. But then it's about, it's about building on these lessons and taking lessons from them and not just sort of throwing it all out and stuff, which is often the sort of the way that this is taken. And there's so much
learning from
knowledge.
it.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much knowledge there that that is just ignored, and we need to start factoring into things and our everyday life as well. And there's so many things that you can do on a daily basis to sort of stay in tune with that. And even if it is just like stepping out into the park and making sure that you feel some grass on your feet, and like talk to a tree, like see what you get back. Like, have you ever tried? Most people say that trees can't talk. They've never tried speaking.
You've never tried. That's right.
Feel the vibrations in it.
It's so real. I mean, this is why, I'm happy I can get different kinds of people on the show, people who come with spirituality, because some people, they don't understand spirituality. They might understand religion because it's a popular thing, but a lot of people don't understand spirituality. And you can deal with spirituality in different ways, where you could deal with it as oneness, or you can deal with it as an individual. Because you as an individual, you go on your walk to the park or go wherever you're going on your adventure, you're by yourself. And when you're by yourself, it's like when I took this trip to meet the Mani tribe in Thailand. I'm going south of Thailand. I don't really know my way I'm getting there, but I'm trusting the spirit. I'm going to trust me instinct. I'm going to speak to people at the same time. So I remember getting like 2 different buses there. It was like 7 hours. So the time I got up there, I'm trying my best to communicate with different people, because you got Buddhists there. You've also got Muslims, because south of Thailand, there's more Muslims down there because by Malaysia. And then communicate with the people, seeing some great spirit. And I wanted to go into the rainforest, and I'm looking, how can I get into this rainforest? I mean, I was a little naive going just on the bus, like if the bus is going to take you to the jungle or something. But it was just when you want to do something. So when I ended up getting there, I had to link up with not a taxi driver, because they don't have taxis there. They said, just a random person will pick you up like I'm a hitchhiker, and they don't charge nothing. I said, no, I've got to give them something. I can't do that. So I had someone take me into the jungle, and I said, how much you want? He just get about £10 in our money. Because this was nighttime, this was my first experience in the night. I've never been in the jungle in the night, done the daytime. So we had to link up with a ranger. He gave us torches. We had to jump on his little truck. The time he gets in there now, and then I'm looking now, okay, where the driver? He gives me a torch, and he shouts like a little something in their language to alert them that we're coming in, because they will hit you with the blow darts if they don't know you're coming in, and we don't need that. So we get in there now, and then we just shine the torches everywhere. There's the tribes. I was made up to meet them, and the energy when I seen them, the energy I couldn't even describe. That was overwhelming, and I was just like, I was meant to meet yous, and they were meant to meet me, because they will have people go in there, but it won't be like-minded people like us.
Yeah,
they might get random tourists go in, but just random average tourists, they can't connect to them properly. They like to believe they can just because they might stay where they stay. It's much more deeper. You might get some people there who stay with them for 6 months and still can't make a connection to someone going in there and making the connection straight away.
It's the ethic you go with. Like, you can treat it like a zoo, and you can be sort of sat there watching these other beings that are weird and wonderful, or you can go there knowing that there's a fundamental connection between you and these people who are just like you, but it's an individuality being expressed in a different form, in a different place, but that is fundamentally connected to you. If you go with that ethic, you're going to understand and you could, yeah, the ideas will be transmitted way more fluidly.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
To transmit it, and this is like the secrets of life. I wouldn't even call it secrets. It's there.
Yeah.
You've just got to look for it.
Yeah,
so it's not. It's secret to some people.
Yeah.
But you got to tap into. You have to tap into that, and when you tap into that, once I start to go more and more places, I was connecting with them all around the world. In Hawaii, you know, some of the deep people I met in Hawaii, not the typical people you might see on the TV, and. You know, in the last 200 years, you have people from China, Japan going into Hawaii. And when large populations start going in, you're going to absorb. That's why the true Hawaiians are a tiny minority now, small minority. And when they tell me things like they see Africa, what the great things, what they say about Africa as the land of the gods or the land of the spirits. They're the exact words they use, the land of the gods or the land of the spirits. So whatever you're comfortable with. The Fijians telling you that they came from Africa, Lake Tanganyika, 3,500 years ago, they reached Fiji. And they can remember that. They teach that in the schools. And when we say in the schools, the Fijian school system, not because they've got an English curriculum out there, but I love it when every person in Fiji says, we're from Africa. I've never been a place like outside of like, you know, what we know as the African diaspora. Because Fiji, you wouldn't include Fiji with an African diaspora.
No.
Or Papua New Guinea or anywhere in Melanesia.
No. Yeah.
Because what I was looking at with the scientists there, they say, oh, they came from Southeast Asia and then went into Fiji. They weren't from Africa. So why are they saying something completely different? And this is the thing, we can't just go to a country. It's like I go to Australia and I spoke to some Aborigines, and yeah, some of them are aware of they came from Africa. Some said we might have came from India, and some said we've been here forever. So, you know, I've got to look at all of them things. I believe they come from Africa. Definitely, you know, because Africa, there's something special about Africa. You know, you can clearly see we're the original people, and they're the Aboriginal. You know, there's the original, then there's the Aboriginal. You know, so the original's in Africa. But then you got the first wave that went into Asia, and these pockets of these little peoples, very short people, they're all scattered around. And then they were in Tasmania, they were in the Pygmies in Congo. You know, so these are very, very definitely got to be the oldest people.
Yeah, and as you say, there's like so many different movements, and like there's like new bones found every day. I think it was Homo naledi or whatever, the one in South Africa a couple of years ago that like predated so many others, and all these different forms of Homo sapiens that not of Homo sapiens, of different Homo genuses that started out in Africa and spread off, and I think
Neanderthal, like, Denisovans.
Yeah, exactly, and like. I think Australian DNA has like a much higher percentage of Denisovan, is it, as well? Which is sort of like, it's why there's like maybe some of these slight sort of differences in the sort of expression. But yeah, very much I think there's.
But you see with Denisovan, because we get it from a European perspective, these could have looked more human than what they let on though. You know, they didn't. Why do you have to have 8 features and so. It's like they just paint their own image. If they see a dinosaur, well, this is the bone, so it's got to have looked like this.
Don't get started on dinosaurs, innit?
I know. Write that one off anyway. But that's just an example anyway, where just painting your own picture to something that's not factual. You can't say that's factual.
Yeah,
you just paint your own picture.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, dinosaurs is probably the best example because they'll take one bone and they'll just construct an entire creation out of it that looks nothing like it, basically. And like, I've got a brother who's like, not convinced, but he's like, you can't tell me that dinosaurs didn't have an advanced civilization and then like flew off and left stuff, because you've got so little evidence that you're trying to piece these things together for. It's as likely that they built spaceships and are now living in a different dimension that like that they looked like Tyrannosaurus Rex or whatever and stuff. Is some nonsense they try and piece together and present to you as fact and thing. And that's also, I suppose that's one of the key things that like underlines most of my position on these things at the moment, is like, I just don't think I believe in facts anymore. I think there can be interpersonal truths. Me and you can see the same thing as truth, but that doesn't make it a universal truth sort of thing. It's just about reaching those interpersonal truths. And I'm very like, I don't feel like I know much at all about anything, like way less than I did sort of 5 years ago. I think, when I started on my conscious journey, I felt like I was sort of gaining knowledge, and like I was saying before, like progress was going to be this sort of straight line that I would just keep moving and reach this sort of set point of a conscious African sort of thing. And now I'm very much sort of, yeah, it's very much this is the journey. It's like there'll be setbacks. You'll sort of, you'll figure out things. You'll realize, that doesn't make sense. You'll read something else and factor it in, have more questions and stuff. And now
gotta weigh it up.
Exactly, yeah. Now I feel like I've just got thousands and thousands of questions, but I suppose that's the point of life, is to go about answering those. And like, we're not supposed to know these things.
Well, that's it. I mean, this is why I just research every day. I like to research something.
Yeah.
I could even be looking at today, looking at the Ottoman Turks. It could be, yesterday I was looking at Alexander the Great. The other week I was looking at the Persians.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at, like, I look at from perspectives of, like, the old knowledge. And when we say the old knowledge, it's still there, but it's finding it. Like, when the Greeks were going to Egypt, when Persians were going to Egypt, they were going, first of all, to learn.
Yeah.
This is what we don't... Okay, Alexander the Great conquered, and the Persians were conquering, but they were first coming to learn, and then later on, they're going to try to take over.
That's how they knew there was something they wanted to come and take. Yeah.
And the Greeks were very paranoid people, because when they called it the ancient mystery system. But when you say mystery, that means something you don't know. So they didn't know. So they called it the ancient mystery system. So, and then the Greeks were always looking for something else. What else have you got to give us? And not created like a paranoia of, yous are definitely hard, so we're going to press you even more harder now. Because we know you've got more to give us. Which, you know what, once they got a little taste of our knowledge, they wanted more, they were thirsty, but take it from us and use it against us. Whether it's religion, because we brought spirituality through Africa right into Asia to wherever we go in the world. But it seems like it came back into Africa in an Abrahamic form.
A weaponized form.
A weaponized form.
Yeah.
And it was no benefit for us from what we had.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
So what we had.
100%. Yeah.
I felt like we were so, like, not the perfect, because I don't believe in the perfect world or nothing like that. But it was just like, you know, we knew exactly, you know, it's... Look at people who hunt for sport, for example. They hunt for sport, we hunt for survival. You know, that mentality of I'm going to go fox hunting or deer hunting or something, that's just horrible. You know, it's horrible. Because if you can do harm, just go and shoot a deer, you would do something evil to a human being.
Yeah. It's I mean, that sort of pure entitlement sort of thing is like, it's a very key philosophy of imperialism. It is that, like, we are superior to you, and therefore we can do whatever we want within the bounds that we set ourselves. And that same ethic is applied to animals as it is to Africans, as it is to, on a gradient scale based on skin color, essentially, is the way that that's sort of interpreted. It is the sort of central ethic of imperialism and white supremacy is,
So another thing I want to get at, I mean, you know, as a traveling man, you know, where are some of the places that you've traveled to? Because, you know, tell me a bit about some of these places you've been to as well, because I love talking about travel.
Yeah. Oh, where to start? I mean, I've been lucky enough to, like, to get across most of the world, or most of the black world, at least.
Excellent.
And so, like, I've got family in Jamaica, so I've spent a decent bit of time in Jamaica, which has always been, like, really sort of fundamental to my sort of self-understanding and things. But also, I've been able to go to other parts of the Caribbean, like Cuba, Trinidad, Barbados. I'd love to go back to... I was in Cuba too young. I didn't have the political understanding to be able to interpret it in the way that I would now. But
what year did you go Cuba?
I think that would be 2000.
I was there 2006 I went.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I think I was a bit after you, but I was obviously a lot younger. So.
But Cuba back then to how it is now, I'm starting to see... Well, I haven't been there, but from people who I know have been there recently, it sounds a little different. Like, I felt it was a bit more, not strict, but like kind of, the communism was more intact. Of keep to me, you keep to you, so that type of thing. But I got on with a lot of the Cuban people.
Yeah.
I think they're great people.
No, I've got great memories of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd love to go back out there. I've got a cousin who studied medicine there.
And Trinidad, I went there 2018, you know, because the first time I got my mum's side's Trinidad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the first time I met family out there, you know, so that was an interesting one. How did you find Trinidad, anyway?
Again, that's another one that I was quite young for, but I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved it. Like, Trinidadian food is one of my, like, the highest echelons for me. That South Asian, Caribbean, like, make mashup with a roti and everything. That is special stuff. And yeah, Trinidad's a great place. I've got better, like, more recent memories of the sort of times I spent in, like, I've been to Ghana like 2-3 years ago, which was like a really sort of kind of again a part of this journey of self-discovery and figuring out where we fit into these things. And again, it's partly like so many like positive, pleasant experiences and things, and sort of this connection that you have to people. And also, again, that's sort of like an interesting one with like where Rasta sits. And so like I travel around Ghana and everybody be like, yo, Rasta, yo, can I take a picture and stuff? Like, people love Jamaican culture out there and things. And yeah, I found that like quite inspiring, and that there's this kind of Pan-African connection in some sense. And then also like, I just, particularly remember this one moment I was chatting to some like little like youth, he was like 10, 11 something, and he was like, I've heard Jamaica's so beautiful. And I was like, oh man, yeah, like, you've got to go visit. So, and then as soon as I said those words, I was like, rah, like, the chances of this you ever reaching Jamaica are so slim. Like, but then like, why? Because like there should be these setups, and that's a conversation that goes on a lot in the Caribbean about inter-Caribbean travel. That it like costs way less for you to fly from Jamaica to Miami or from Jamaica to like LA than it does to fly from Jamaica to Trinidad or Barbados and these type of things. But even the connections between the Caribbean and Africa are so they're non-existent. And like,
now I wanted to ask about that because I heard there wasn't flights going direct.
Yeah.
Is there some flights now direct from anywhere in the Caribbean to Africa?
I'll be honest, I haven't actually looked personally in the last like recently, but yeah, it's definitely not something that happens. Yeah, essentially, it's
that's terrible. It's
cut off, and but there is this sort of the cultural connection there, and there is that drive, and I think Haiti, it's much more inherent in the Haitian culture of all the sort of Caribbean islands. I think they have the most deep-seated Pan-Africanism, and obviously like they have a very specific history of revolt and revolution that allowed them to keep their African. They've been an African republic since what is it, 18? I can't remember the date.
He split off from the Dominican Republic.
Yeah, there was the Haitian Revolution, and they kicked out all the slave owners, and have been a black republic since then, and have been like brutally punished for it for 200 years. And that's most of the reasons that Haiti is the most impoverished state in the Western Hemisphere at the moment, are as a result of the insolence of kicking out the slave masters in the 1800s. But because of that, so if you look at like the way that, again, like the way that like Pan-Africanism and African culture is experienced across the Americas is so much dictated by the form of slavery that was experienced there. And so if you go to places like Brazil, the Pan-African culture is so like heavy there because essentially the mode of slavery in Brazil was so brutal that they expected all slaves to die by 25. And so they didn't bother to take away their drums or take away their religion, because they're like, you're going to work for 3-4 years and die, and then we're going to get more. Whereas in Britain and, British colonies, so like in America and Jamaica, the ethic was, we'll make more money if we bring you over and then we make you have kids, and then we keep your kids as slaves and keep your kids as slaves. Yeah. But if we're going to keep that culture of subservience, we're going to have to take away your drums, we're going to have to take away your religion, your spirituality, we're going to have to take away anything that connects you to Africa. And that's why if you go to Brazil or Haiti, you hear about Shango, you hear about Oshun, you hear people playing the drums. Drums in Jamaica were reintroduced by the Baptist revivalists post-slavery in the 1880s, when people started to reconnect to Africa, but through a sort of African spiritual Christianity kind of lens. Oh, yeah. And that's where... Mixture. Exactly, yeah. And that's where African culture started to come back into the Caribbean, where it had been deliberately stomped out for years. Obviously you got the Maroons up in the hills who still blew the abeng. They would play their drums. They still speak Cromanti, which is like essentially Twi Ghanaian language. They still speak that up in the hills in Jamaica. That's like, you can't really understand it if you speak English, but if they went and spoke it to an Akan speaker in Ghana, they would be able to understand each other perfectly. And that's 400 years of separation, which is the kind of thing that, I suppose that's the difference. They're the people that lived outside the influence of slavery. and the people that were on the plantations had African culture beaten out of them, and that's why you needed movements like Rasta to essentially bring that consciousness back to Jamaica, and that's why people like Garvey had to leave to America and start to sort of find that consciousness over there, because Jamaica still, to this day, doesn't have that strong link to Africa that you see in Haiti or in Brazil or other places like that, and that's why Rasta's sort of trying to bring that back. But people always forget, like, how much of a minority Rasta is in Jamaica. Like, even like, what was it? It was like 2 months ago, you had a Rasta schoolgirl getting her locks, police forcibly, like, shave her locks off on school and stuff, and things like that. People don't understand that Rasta is a persecuted minority in Jamaica because the tourist board loves to put their big Bob Marley posters up at the airport and gumbunyo eat all these type of thing, and then people think that Rasta is an accepted culture. Rasta is like 5% of the population that are actively discriminated against in almost every sphere of life, but because they have so much cultural capital that brings foreign exchange into the island, the government's happy to put their faces on a thing, get Protégé to run a little dub plate when it's election season or whatever. But then when it comes down to things like, the actual policy, or even just like supporting people through the pandemic and things, like the Rasta are discriminated against heavily. And so this year, and again, like,
and one thing we always ask everyone who comes on the show, well, we touched on it, but the importance of African history and why, you know, believing, like, why is it important for us to know our history? I'll always ask everybody who comes on the show this. So how important do you feel like it is for us to know our history? I know we've talked about most things, but I think we'll touch on it.
Yeah, no, I suppose it's run through everything we're saying, but kind of, as I say, like, I think the goal of a human life is to become more connected with yourself and other people, and you can't understand yourself. It's the classic Garveyism, a tree without roots, and so you have to know yourself to be able to build. And again, it takes a level of arrogance and hubris to sort of believe that the thousands of generations that have come before us have nothing to tell us and have nothing to teach us, and that we can move forward in this existence without the wisdom that's gone before us. And so, as I said earlier, it's not about uncritically taking back. It's not about like a golden age, like, and again, there's some of the sort of like a lot of the sort of African history stuff that's often kind of labeled the sort of Hotep sort of school, like the sort of uncritical sort of harking back without any sort of critical idea of what the things we want to take forward, what were the problems then, what can we build on it, and sort of thing.
But the truest African history, funny you say that, is you don't get that in university. You don't get a qualification, a grade that will get you into a good job.
It's not about
it's not about that. And that's what some people get confused about. Well, you look, who's earning the most money? well, I'm just looking at who's bringing the most truth.
Yeah, and that's, again, that's exactly what I'm saying in terms of what we should view our goals and things. And like the European idea is that, like, if it's not bringing you if it's not bringing you stuff, then it's not worth doing. Whereas the Pan-African sort of Ubuntu idea is that if it's not bringing you closer to other people, then it's not worth doing. And that's the way that I think we need to start sort of orientating ourselves just that little bit more. And I think, again,
Definitely.
it's the kind of thing you can work into just everyday activities of, as I say, just like reaching out to somebody and just trying to understand their story, having a few words with them, and seeing that, like, not as something that you need to get something from, but that connecting with another human being is what you should be doing in itself. You don't need to be like, oh, can this breader like get me a new job or something, or if I make friends with this girl, will I be able to get into this place? You can't use people as instruments. You have to see making relationships with people as the ends in itself, not a means to an ends of accumulating wealth, essentially, which is how this world teaches us to see people.
Well, an interesting thing, because we have to look on both perspectives. People with African descent that they know. So I've got like Nigeria from my father's side. I have Trinidad from my mum's side. So I can see, when I analyze both from me Nigeria, I can see clearly what it is, where we're from, and then I just do my little research on top to see about the history. Well, look at me Trinidad, and for me to try to get in touch with Africa, my mum done a DNA ancestry. We're trying to do family trees. Yeah, of course, connect to Pan-Africanism. Now, you might not be able to point to your country, but if you look at your DNA, if it says more than Ghana, then you Ghana.
And that's, yeah, again, that's, you know, even that, though, like...
Or maybe pick your tribe.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, for those that don't know, because how would you, like, if you, Chase, or you wanted to know, well, which tribe do you feel the most in touch with? Pick that one.
Yeah. But and, even that, I mean...
You know, or, like...
Yeah.
Because I feel sorry for, like, because that's the side where... For people who directly know exactly your tribe, your village, your country, everything, and then for people who don't know it because it's been cut off and you've been given a slave name. So I've got to look at, like, both ways, you see. Like, well, how can... Well, we have to make a solid connection globally. And that's the whole point of Pan-Africanism anyway.
Yeah, I think...
If you want to go further, maybe you want to change your name. I was speaking to a friend of mine. He says he's getting rid of his slave name soon. Terrence, who come on the show last time. So, you know what, good for you. You know, you do what you feel you do. If you feel that is going to make you more in touch, do that.
And that's why I use Diboe as my artist name, because Dallas is a Scottish village that there was a plantation that my ancestors were owned by, and that doesn't reflect me or represent me. But that being said, it's an interesting question because you then... Are you disrespecting, like, generations of Dallases? Because I think there's been, like, 5, 6, 7 generations of Dallases since slavery who have built this sort of
well, maybe
is it disrespecting that to step away from that? So there's never a clear
maybe
answer to any of it.
What you've just done, I think that sounds like, for example, you've got your name, which is being passed here, obviously through slavery, but then you've also got your own name. Exactly. So maybe it's one of them. This name and this name. Yeah,
finding your own position in it all is, I think that's the key to it all. And
like my name's James, but me true Nigerian name's Adania. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The crown is precious. You know what I'm saying?
Like so that's
So that's it, man.
That's the thing. Yeah.
But I'm really, really happy we had you on today.
Oh no, my pleasure. Man.
You know,
my pleasure.
I enjoyed. You know, we speak about African history, spirituality. You're a musician. You like to travel. I see the ank on you.
Yeah, man.
Love it. You know what I'm saying? And we'll do this again anyway.
Sure, yeah.
So I want to thank you, Andre Dallas.
Yeah, no, enough respect. And
you know, this is James Diboe on Discovering Season 4. Dedicated to original people, and we are here, and I want to thank you again.
My pleasure.
Bless
my
up.
Pleasure.
Thanks very much, Andre.
Enough love.